Well, hello, ladies and gents. This is Mrs. Terpstra. Would you believe my poor son is still running a fever, and my husband took his turn staying home today, so it looks like I might be staying home tomorrow. So I'm up here again at 10:30 doing my notes for you to make sure that you get the information that you need. So we're going to start by talking about the Syrian crisis. So first of all, we need to make sure we handed out those notes for today. And then also make sure that you have out your Middle East review. And I'll show you actually what words we're going through. So if you'll look at your review here, and you go to where it says in the middle, Syrian National Coalition, right here. And it goes down through Free Syrian Army. Those words are all going to be covered in this particular presentation. So just wanted to let you know that. Okay, so let us begin. All right, so first of all, we need to talk about Syria a little bit. I know you probably heard the name Syria in the news. You maybe heard the name ISIS. And I know there's a lot of questions about what are they, what's happening. So let's take a look. If you look at this map of Syria, you'll notice that this is really concerning. In fact, when I watched and looked at this, it kind of struck a chord in me. If you notice all of the green areas, and by the way, I know yours isn't in color, so if I were you, I would maybe draw a line or color in one side or something so you can kind of get an idea. The green areas are mainly solid regime, meaning that these are government areas under control. Now, the darker the color, the more control they have. So they have lots of control here, very controlled right in here, and mainly regime in this light area around here, okay? But if you'll notice, basically half of Syria is in red, and these are areas that are controlled by the rebels. And this dark red is completely controlled by the rebels. Now you're going to find that this is a story where the president is a bad guy, but the rebels are also bad guys. So it's kind of a story of which is the worst evil. And right now, we're not quite sure how to deal with this. Should we get rid of the president first because that's why the rebels attacked? Or should we get rid of the rebels because they're doing horrible, horrible things as well? So it is a very dangerous place. Imagine half the United States being in a rebellion. That's what they're facing. All right, so there's a couple of different names and groups that you need to be aware of. First of all, we have what's called the Ba'ath Party in Syria. Now, these are Arab Socialist Party, and they rely heavily on the Quran. Remember, we studied that in the Islam faith. That's their Bible, right? And Sharia law. And they have been in power. This party has been in power in Syria since 1963, when this family actually took power. So they've been around for quite a while. And we also have the term the Alawites. The Alawites are a branch of Shia Islam, or the Shiites. Remember the Shiites that we talked about? They are a branch off the Shiites. They make up about 12% of Syria's population. And again, this group have been in power since 1963, when they basically took over. We also have a group of Christians in this country. They might make up about 10% of Syria's population. And what's really interesting is although they only make up about 10% of their population, they have long held important government roles, which is kind of rare for a minority. And they are seen as backing government forces. So Christians are considered like kind of the bad guys to the rebels, as well as the Alawites, or the political party, the Ba'ath Party. Let's take a look at our major players in the group, our leaders. The first guy you need to know is a guy named Bashar al-Assad. He is the president of Syria. He took over in 2000 after his father's death. He won with a 97% vote. So, you know, his father had done a decent job. They voted for him. It was positive at the time. He flirted with changes of reform to make things better, but he eventually followed in his father's footsteps, which was pretty much a dictatorship. He is an Alawite, and he also represents that Ba'ath party that ran for president. The problem is, after he took power, they found out that he had some very violent tendencies, just like we've heard some of these other stories. He blamed some of these uprisings in his country on outside forces, that we were influencing them, Western influence, and he justified use of force on demonstrators and rebels. So he started going and shooting up people and killing people and said, well, they were rebelling, so I have every right to do that. We now basically have proof that he has committed war crimes on his own people. About 126,000 people have been killed by this man and his people during the Syrian civil war. So there are a lot of people demanding that we go in and we take out al-Assad and put him on trial against the world, in front of the world, and take him out. However, now we have this rebellion going on that's causing even more problems. We also have a guy named Ahmad Jarba. He is the Syrian political opposition to Assad. He is the president of what we call the Syrian National Coalition. He is often demonized by the Syrian news because Assad controls the media in his country. And he is an advocate for providing weapons to the rebels. So ultimately, he wants to take over the country and push Assad out. But think of him like the head of a dragon. He doesn't want to be a part of all the rebellion necessarily. However, we believe he's funding them and supporting them. Okay. All right, a couple other terms that you need to know. The Syrian National Coalition. This is the political opposition to Assad's Ba'ath party. They want to remove al-Assad. They want to get rid of his supporters, and they basically back the Free Syrian Army, which are the rebels in the story. So it would be kind of like Assad is a Republican, these are the Democrats, these are the two main parties in their country. The Free Syrian Army are the rebels. They ultimately also want to remove Assad. They are the largest opposition group, and they are a military group, not a political group. They are out to fight and to kill. They are also a secular part of this opposition. And what's interesting is it's not just one group that's against Assad, but we believe there's over 100 separate groups that hate Assad so much that they have unified to become the Free Syrian Army. You see their flag here, their symbol, and then the flag right here in this picture. And you'll notice that they are dressed to the teeth, right, with weapons and everything. So let's talk about ISIS. We've heard that name a lot in the news, and this is what's really freaking us out a little bit. All right, this group is an extremist group, even further than the Free Army, okay? These guys broke off from Al-Qaeda. If you remember, Al-Qaeda was led by Osama bin Laden, and they were the ones behind the attacks on the World Trade Center and everything. They are extreme. They want al-Assad out, and they want to make this country, Syria, into a strict Islamic society. Their ultra-Islamic stance actually puts them against other rebel groups. So the Free Syrian Army would not approve of the methods that ISIS uses. They may have the same goal as far as getting rid of Assad, but they have different methods. And this group, if you've ever seen the movie Blood Diamonds, they are basically doing the same kind of thing. They are going from town to town, and they are just killing at random. They're intimidating, they're terrorizing the people, and they basically will slaughter anybody who seems to be supporting Assad's side in the war. So there's a lot of violence going on. They also have attacked Western powers for getting involved. They've beheaded 2 American journalists just this year. And I thought it was really interesting. In the last one, of course, they put it on YouTube because they want to show the world what they are doing to our representatives. This is what their message was for our president. They said, "I am back, Obama, and I am back because of your arrogant foreign policy towards the Islamic State, because of your insistence on continuing your bombings and on Mosul Dam, despite our serious warnings. Just as your missiles continue to strike our people, our knife will continue to strike the necks of your people." And then they beheaded this journalist in front of everyone on YouTube. You'll see them up here with their weapons, and this is also their flag for the ISIS group. Oops. From August through September alone, this was a really striking statistic for me. The U.S. has launched over 162 airstrikes against ISIS-controlled positions throughout Iraq. So they have been bombing ISIS targets. I mean, that's a lot of strikes in just like a couple months. And of course, this may require another war in Iraq. Like we said just yesterday, the president has approved sending more troops in to help support our side of soldiers in Iraq. And it's because they're being hit by these ISIS groups. And they've crossed into not just Syria, but they've actually crossed into Iraq. And so we're trying to support them and give them some ground and some strength again. So this could be really scary. This is their leader, Abu Bakr. And if you remember our notes between the Shiites and the Sunnis, to remember that the one group believed Abu Bakr was the real leader of their group, that it was handed down from Muhammad. So this guy is actually named after that line of family. Kind of interesting. Not the same guy, but named after him. So why should ISIS worry us? Well, if you take a look here at this particular map, you'll see what I'm saying here. Okay, take a look at, and this is really an interesting site if you want to take a look at it more later. These all are areas under ISIS control. So you see all these areas in red on here. These are all ISIS controlled places. Notice that the border of Syria is here, right? And then Iraq is all over here. So they are far, all the way over towards Baghdad. You'll notice there. Try to pull this down a little bit. Yeah, see, here's Fallujah. They've got control over here. And these are major cities that we're very worried about. I also want to show you another reason why we're concerned. Of course, they have lots of pictures by satellite, so we can see what's happening. This is our other big concern. If you'll take a look at Syria and Iraq here in the middle, this shows you all of the refugee camps in the countries around those countries. And it shows you how many people are in those areas. So up here, for example, up in Turkey, we have 840-some thousand people that have fled their homes. They've fled their country and gone over the border for help. Over here, we've got a whole bunch kind of escaping over there. In Lebanon, we have 1,100,000 that have gone over the border. In Jordan, we have 615,000. Egypt, 140,000. So we've got a lot of people that are in need, and they are crying for our help. So that is why it's getting our attention and why we're concerned about ISIS. If any of you have family members over there in Iraq, you understand why we're concerned about this. We don't want to see any more of our guys getting killed. So you'll see what's really happening. We call it the Great Divide in the Middle East. If you look at the countries in blue, countries like Saudi Arabia and Turkey, They are Sunni ruled, and you'll see it all goes back to that religion conflict again, doesn't it? They are Sunni ruled. The countries in red, like Iran and Iraq, are Shiite ruled. The countries in blue are aiding the rebels in Syria and Iraq. And the countries in red are supporting al-Assad. In fact, Iran trained the Syrian government troops, and the Syrian government has what they call ghost squads. I believe that's one of your terms, that go around and kill anybody who's in opposition to them. And they are doing mass genocide throughout Syria. So not only do we have these rebels killing people, but then we've also got Assad's government killing people. So it is really a hotbed right now. And we're really worried about what's going on. All right, that ends our Syrian notes for today.